Right, this is a very quick 5.6 lesson. We're going to talk about several different properties. You are going to need to know each of these properties and an example of each of them. So the first one is called commutative property, or the reverse order property. And so there's one for multiplication, and an example would be 4 times 6 is the same thing as 6 times 4. So you can actually reverse order the 4 and the 6 and still multiply them both and get 24. So that's how this works. The addition example is 4 plus 6 is the same thing as 6 plus 4. So you could switch the orders of both of these and end up with 10 for the answer for addition. The next one is associative property. This is about grouping. And so there's a multiplication and an addition one. And so this first one is going to be 2 times 4, that's in parentheses, and then the 5 is on the outside, and so that no dot or anything between the parenthesis and the 5, which still means multiply. So this is the same thing as 2 times 4 times 5. So this is grouping. The 2, 4, and 5 are in the same order. This is not reordering them like the commutative property is, but it's just regrouping them by putting parentheses around different portions of it. There's also an addition example, and that addition example would be 2 plus 4 plus 5, where the parentheses are around the 4 and the 5, is the same thing as 2 plus 4 plus 5, where 4 and 5 get added first. So it's just the grouping parentheses for associative property. Remember, commutative means change the order. All right, the next one is the identity property of 0. And so it means that if you have a number, anything plus 0 is itself, okay? 0 is your addition, right? This is for addition. And then the next one, the identity property of 1, is about multiplication. So how do you get identity, get yourself? It's by multiplying by 1. So same thing here. How do you find yourself, or you identify yourself? By with 0, you add, right? So we're just about, these two properties are about finding the number you started with. How do you keep the number you started with? For multiplication, you multiply by 1, and so this is your multiplication. Okay. The last one we're going to talk about. Oh, sorry. Did I write that on the wrong one? Oh, sorry. Multiplication property of 0. So any number that you multiply by 0 is going to give you just the number of 0. Okay. So multiplication, it tells you what you're doing. 0 means that 0 is going to be involved, so you're getting an answer of 0. The last one we're going to talk about is a distributive property. I want you to see a problem that looks like this, or an example. All right, so both sides of this are the same. They're equal, obviously. And so I want to show you how the distributive property works. If there are parentheses that you see here, and there is a number on the outside of it with no add, subtract, multiply, divide sign between the parenthesis and the 2, it means that you're going to multiply that number to everything inside. So what that means is that 2 gets multiplied times the x, and 2 gets multiplied times the 4. Well, 2 times x is 2x. And then here we multiply 2 times 4, and that's where I got the 8. There was already a plus sign between them, so the sign doesn't change unless this 2 out here was like a -2. And then you're actually using the rules for sign numbers that we learned in the previous section. And so I want you to see that what you started with and what's on the other side over here, those are equal, but you would distribute here and get this as a final answer. So we're going to work on a few distributive property problems, and then we're going to be done with this section. So our first example would be 4 parentheses 3x minus 2y. Distributive property, yes it is. It's also a subtraction problem, so I need to make sure I keep that in mind. So this 4 is getting multiplied times this piece and times the other piece. How do I know what I'm multiplying it times? Well, it's separated by an add or subtract sign, so this piece and this piece. The 4 gets multiplied times both of these pieces, only 2, whatever is separated by the add or subtract sign. So I have 4 times 3x minus 4 times 2y, right, because the 4 goes in there on both of these. I multiply the numbers and I get 12, the x stays with it, minus 4 times 2 is 8y. So this is my final answer. When the 4 gets distributed to both things inside, this box down here is my final answer. Okay, so let's try another problem. Now I'm going to give you a negative sign on the outside, and we're going to practice with that. So -5 is distributed, and here's my plus sign, so I know I have 2 terms that I'm multiplying the -5 times. How do I know that? Because they're separated by an add or subtract sign. So the -5 goes here, and the -5 goes there. So this is a new problem. I have -5 times 3x plus negative 5 times 6y. So a negative and a positive multiplied together means opposite signs, answer's always negative. Bring your x. 5 and 6 signs are different. The answer is always negative. I get 5 times 6 is 30. Bring your y. Final answer. I know what you're thinking. What about the plus sign? Well, if I put a plus sign in here, it's plus a negative, and when you simplify, it actually is just a negative. So the negative stays there. Okay? All right, let's try this one. All right, no distributing here. You have an order of operations, right? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And so we're looking at a problem where I need to put together things that match, or like terms. So this guy's got an x, this guy's got an x, they match, so I'm going to put the numbers in front together. So I have negative 5 plus 7. I know that x is a part of this problem, like there's an x here and an x here, so the x is going to be in the answer. And negative 5 plus 7, signs are different. I'm going to subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. The bigger number was 7, a positive. So I have plus 2x right there. All right, and I look at this again and I see two numbers. Numbers are the same. Numbers with x's attached to them are the same. And so I have 6 plus 10. It's an addition problem. Signs are different. Subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. The bigger number was 10, so this is plus 4. So when I combine like terms, I find 2x plus 4 is my final answer. Okay. One last problem. I have 3r squared c, and they tell you that r is negative 2 and c is negative 5. So what they want you to do is they want you to plug in what you have in for the numbers and find the answer. So I have 3, r is negative 2, so I have negative 2 is squared, and then c is negative 5. Why did I put them in parentheses? Because they're clearly all touching, which means they're multiplied together, so I just separated them by parentheses, letting myself know that we're going to multiply. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, there's nothing to do inside parentheses. My exponent is here, right? So I have negative 2 times negative 2. In here, I have 2 of them, so this gives me a positive 4. Bring down everything else that I haven't used yet. And so now I've got only multiply left. Multiply from left to right. Bring down what I haven't used, and then I multiply one last time, and I multiply 12 times negative 5, and I should get negative 60. Signs are different, so the answer will always be negative. 12 times 5 is 60. Final answer. All right, so you want to make sure that you complete your TOYOs, bring them to class. Ask me any questions that you may have over your homework.